So I have the pleasure of introducing Rhonda Lewis today, who will be moderating our panel as she makes her way up. And before I start, I just want to say that unfortunately, Susan Dobin, who was scheduled to be a panelist, has pneumonia, unfortunately, so she was not able to join us today. So I would just like to encourage our other panelists to provide any sort of insights in terms of what Susan was going to speak about, which is kind of the role of the architect in putting together a deal. And I would also, as we told Rhonda, now that we have a little more time, we're hoping that Rhonda can share a little more insight and not only serve as the moderator, but also share some of her own experiences. We have been working through our Renew Brooklyn program with a variety of merchant associations and LDCs throughout Brooklyn this year, and Bridge Street is one of the organizations that we have come to know and are very impressed with all the work that they are doing in Bedford-Stuyvesant. So it's my great pleasure to be able to introduce the leader of that organization, and Rhonda is president and CEO of Bridge Street Development Corporation. Bridge Street was founded in 1995 through the Bridge Street African Wesleyan Methodist Episcopal Church, which is also one of the oldest African congregations in New York City. I think it's older than even Abyssinian, according to their data. They have developed over 400 units of housing, and they're actively involved in revitalizing Bedford-Stuyvesant's commercial corridors. Prior to joining Bridge Street, Rhonda was Director of Economic Development at the New York City LISC, where she worked with LDCs to create over 2,000 units of housing. While there, she also worked on commercial revitalization projects, including the legendary Harlem Pathmark project and another project that created 134,000 square feet of retail in the South Bronx. So we're very excited to have her as moderator and share her experiences with community development and specifically with commercial revitalization in our community. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? And I am joined by a wealth of experience today. I do have the pleasure of knowing Brad for a very long time. I'll introduce everyone, but Brad is also a practitioner in the field, being the former executive director of the Fifth Avenue Committee. He's been on the front line, and he's on the other side, but he definitely has a wealth of experience, and I'll talk about, I'll let Brad talk a little in a minute. But we're also joined by Alexander Klein, who has over 12 years of experience in housing and economic development, and Jim Clark, who has over 20 years of experience in real estate development. So I'm going to go back to Brad. And Brad, perhaps you can tell us, as the executive director of the Pratt Institute, a little bit about the organization and your role there. And then we'll talk.
Sure. So, as Rhonda said, first of all, it's wonderful to be here with all of you, and the challenges in a time of rising real estate values and growing population and to some extent shrinking development opportunities of meeting need, of doing deals that work but that meet affordable housing needs or bring products to market already and provide community spaces and community facilities is a lot harder than it was in some ways 10 years ago when there wasn't appetite. And it's only going to be done by developers, in my opinion, who really have a social mission. And so I think especially those community facilities that I'll come back to, where they really can't make money building them. You only build them if you really believe there's need, that more faith-based development is going to be something we're going to have to see if we want to meet the needs of the growing city and the rising real estate market. So it's an honor to be here. For 10 years, I directed the Fifth Avenue Committee, a not-for-profit community development corporation that does affordable housing, economic and workforce development, financial literacy, and some social services. And we did a few projects jointly with a couple of churches in our neighborhood, one housing development deal for very low-income senior citizens, and then a range of other workforce development and financial literacy and social service programs. And now I'm at the Pratt Center for Community Development, where we work with community groups around the city, faith-based organizations, community groups, community development, community developers, community boards, on a wide range of land use, community planning, affordable housing issues. And on the project side, because there's such a wealth of really good housing developers out there that do affordable housing, we've stepped back a little. We think there's places to find the financing, the planning, the architects. But especially on the community facilities side, we're trying to ramp up our ability because we see people really trying to do those projects, seeing unmet need for senior services for child care, for after-school programming, and sort of know where to turn. So I'll come back to
And Alexandra, fine. I like to talk a little bit about CPD